Number one, like I feel like the entire like HongYuan structure might be sentient, considering how it is able to just sing and stuff. Like, of course, it's ability to like reassign stuff and reassign rooms to people. And judging by some of the dialogue, it's kind of implied that the New Age corporate was able to like program the HongYuan in order to like give out rooms based on their standards. But the reason I think it's sentient mostly because of the songs. Like, or the first song we hear is a song about Dante, and is able to somehow foreshadow and mention his entire journey, and of course know about him coming to HongYuan. Even though due to the reaction of a lot of people, it's unlikely that like some random backstreets person would just be able to learn about Dante, and let alone be able to know about his plan, and that they'll be able to write a song to sing about him. The second time we hear it is during the restructuring day, where we start to hear the song about the restructuring day. But the whole point is I don't really think that the Backstreets people will be in the mood for that. Like they're having their houses like restructured, and some of them are dying. I don't really think that they will be in the mood to like sing about the restructuring. And of course, other ones. And to be honest, the one that leads me to the series the most is the one where the HongYuans, where the song about the Night Drifter started singing. And the whole point was that literally no one was there to sing. Like it was inside that HongYuan, so there were no backstreet goers to sing the song. The assassins definitely didn't sing the song, since the assassins are trying to be stealthy. So I feel like the HongYuan itself that is saying about the coming of the Night Drifter. And of course, we also see an unvoiced and family hierarchy Ishmael sing, where we get a song about Honglu and the role he's going to play. And the whole point was that, it occurred on a large banquet, so it's unlikely that some random backstreets or some random people would just decide to sing a song like that. And it's also quite unlikely that, the people who are on that kind of banquet would decide to just sing a song about, one of the major attendants of it. So I just feel like it's sentient or something like that, since it's also mentioned to be like something left behind by the Old Age Corp, and we really don't know what the Old Age Corp did. My second theory here is less of like actual theory and more just a summarization of the weird lore tidbits that we get. The whole point is that Barry describes war with nebulae from the outskirts during one of the flashbacks to a Sancho, and I feel like that's quite an important term. Like entire war was something from the outskirts, the nebulae. The idea of the nebulae is mentioned once again at the end of the chapter by Demian, talking about how the fallen nebulae will one day be able to return, and they'll be able to gain happiness from just looking up at the sky, which I feel like it's about them trying to recreate White Nights and Dark Days, but I don't really know. And of course, they were talking about the past of the fallen nebulae, so this leads me to believe that Dante is a fallen nebulae per se, and thinking back, nebulas are just big clouds of gas in space, and the whole point is that they can form into stars. So, Dante being a fallen nebulae and be able to condense into a star by maybe the aspect or something like that. The whole point was that the amount of characters for censored dialogue is quite consistent. For example, in the opening part, they talk about Dante talks about getting something, and something that they're using that Dante was talking about has the same amount of letters as aspect. So maybe like Dante could get the aspect engraved to turn into a star. But what does star even mean in this context? Like star as a city is just a vague strat ranking, and then maybe like star as in something that can provide happiness in reference to the Little Prince. Since the Little Prince is talked about from being from a planet or like a star in space that is able to bring about happiness when the narrator looks up, since he remembers happy experiences with the Little Prince. So I guess that's it. Alright, this isn't really scary, but here's just something important. There is a trailer where it's showing like a bunch of people die. What's assumed to be a bunch of people die. It's just a bunch of numbers increasing. It included a date, and was the company is slowly encroaching on that date, and Dante's clock is getting closer to the apocalypse. But the whole point was that District D was highlighted there, and District D started to fade out. So I feel like this is kind of like a fall of D Corp or something like that. And I think that's really important, since D Corp is the closest we have gotten to the head without actually being the head. And of course, the prologue chapter takes place in D Corp 2, since if you click on the prologue chapter, it zooms in on D Corp and highlights it. So I feel like after all the sitters get their canto, Dante's gonna get his own canto in D Corp, and like the apocalypse is gonna happen. I feel like this is the most insane one out of this, but it's just a theory that Vergilius is actually also a sinner. Of course, like in reference to Dante's Inferno, Vergilius isn't exactly a sinner. He's just a guy in purgatory who is just on tour guide duty for reasons I don't actually know. But something, well, like people used to say a lot about how like Dante's ability isn't that he can only talk to sinners, but more if he can only talk to people affected by the light, as in like egos and distortions. Since he was able to talk to Papa Bungie when he was distorted, and of course he can talk to sinners, and they all have their own base egos and stuff. So, the idea that Vergilius can actually hear him, but he's just faking it. The most obvious example of this is during the Trash Crabs event, where Vergilius and Dante are both talking, and there are no sinners around to help translate. So it's near guarantee. So it's like quite obvious that Vergilius may or may not be able to actually hear him, or maybe he's just smart enough to predict everything he says or something like that. But this theory mostly comes from the April Fool's event. Yes, I know, but Project Moon is generally very specific about all these lore stuff and stuff. About all these lore stuff. So the whole point is that during the April Fool's event, and on the horse section, Vergilius actually takes the role of Tazuna, which is an instructor who may or may not be a horse. Of course, it's a near confirmed theory that Tazuna is actually a horse and is actually based off a specific horse which was able to set multiple records but was not allowed in the game due to legal reasons and stuff. But Vergilius takes the form of horse here. And the whole point that Tazuna pretends to be human even though she is definitely a horse. Vergilius here is pretending to be something that he definitely isn't. So maybe Vergilius is also a sinner. And also, side note, Vergilius talks about how Mephistopheles was able to run really fast. So that kind of implies Mephistopheles takes the role of Special Week here, which is very cursed. But again, judging by the role of Mephistopheles in Faust's book, Mephistopheles might actually be a sentient or a thing and not just a bus engine. But again, it's able to scream, it's able to eat people, it's able to use enkephalin, which is meant to be energy for stuff. It is able to extract mirror identities, it is able to open the back doors. So Mephistopheles being sentient really is not a big deal compared to everything else it is able to do.